Okay, so today's video, we're going to be talking about a bigger change that is happening than the royalty changes. So in today's video, we are going to talk very briefly about these royalty changes because they do kind of tie in to what I want in today's video. Then we will talk about that significant change in the publishing and creative industries. A new approach is going to be needed to cater toward this for sellers on Amazon KDP. Then we'll talk about the importance of setting up systems to cater toward that. Then we'll talk about becoming part of the change or getting left behind, what publishing is going to look like in a few years' time, why now is the best time to be a self-publisher or entrepreneur, and then how we can protect ourselves against these changes and grow our business going forward. So let's get straight into this. And we're going to talk about the royalty changes. I'll give you my take on this because I rarely agree with any of these sky is falling type of takes on such changes, because really these blanket changes, they're going to affect everybody. And if I had to guess, I think in a few months time, we're not even going to think about this. No one's going to care about this. It's going to be very similar to how it was before, but I do think the books will be higher priced in general, because I can't see how anyone can really make a $6.99 or an $8.99 book work for the long term. So I don't really think it's going to affect people that are serious about this too much. And I think someone from the Raydog membership worked out that a business like Coco Wire, for example, would lose like 40% of their income if they don't increase their prices. So it's going to make it very hard for anyone publishing a $6.99 to an $8.99 priced book to make that work. You'd have to like triple your sales to make it worthwhile. You won't be able to run advertising campaigns at a profit. You'd be making a loss pretty much definitely on anything under $9.99. So that's how I feel about this. Now, when it comes to how we actually make the books worth $9.99, I've heard all sorts of things about making the books longer and how low content books are dead, and how we need to really spend much more time creating our books to make them worth $9.99. So I don't agree with that either, especially the make more pages thing, because we've played that game before a very long time ago when people were really into the whole cookbook thing. For example, they used to publish cookbooks with recipes, like 50 recipes. Then the next person would come in with their competitive advantage of having 100 recipes, next person 150, next person 200, and it gets to a point where obviously you can't keep doing that. So that is not a competitive advantage that you want to lean on. Whereas my opinion here is that the customer gets value from being introduced to a new concept in the marketplace, which is one of the reasons why I'm still 100% focused on producing coloring books, because we can introduce new concepts into the marketplace very quickly for a low production cost, which leads me nicely into the rest of this video. So I do think this is a positive change for creative individuals who are embracing the future of publishing. And on top of all of this, again, I'm not really sure that I care, because this royalty change, it's been a really big eye-opener for me, and it should be for a lot of people, that Amazon doesn't care about you at all. They just don't. And you need to think about life away from Amazon as well. And on top of the significant advancements that I'm going to be talking about as well, it's all mega important. So what are these significant changes? So just to give you an example, this is a picture of me with someone's dog on the beach, and I've asked ChatGPT to turn this into a hand-drawn illustration, and this is what it's come back with. So of course there are inconsistencies. This is not ready to be sold on the marketplace inside of a full book. It's not ready for that, of course. But what should be alarming for every single person watching this is how fast anybody at all can go from this point here, as an example, to this point here. How fast we can do that is a matter of 10 to 20 seconds. Okay, so what we're talking about, the significant change, is the rapid advancement of AI. And this video is not to upset people or be controversial, but it's something that is happening. It's factual. It's happening right in front of us, and we need to think about it. Okay, so while it can feel like a scary and exciting time with such advancements, it is extremely important that now more than ever we do think about becoming AI first and introducing AI into our workflow. So again, as a personal perspective, I'm not huge on AI, but from a business perspective, it cannot be stopped regardless of how you feel about it. Okay, so this isn't going to be a case of just churning out really shitty books, not at all. Complete opposite, in fact. And it also doesn't mean that we'll never outsource anything ever again. And again, for perspective, the illustrator that I work with for my coloring books, they're being paid by me more than they've ever been paid for a singular client, because they're still important. It just means that AI needs to come first versus that. Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit more as we go through. But this change, it is already happening, and personal beliefs about AI, they're completely irrelevant. So people can stick their head in the sand, and you know, they can ignore the changes if they want to. People want to die on that hill. That's entirely up to them. But really, again, the reality is happening right in front of us. Examples being large design teams being let go. Large design teams letting go a huge percentage of their illustrators. And as entrepreneurs, we need to be thinking toward the future and not what feels like immediate solutions to these advancements. So, for example, saying things like people will value fully hand-drawn books more than AI. That's always going to be the case. People will always value hand-drawn books much more than AI. Marketplace in general, despite extremist opinions, the marketplace in general isn't going to care whether your book has been made with AI assisted or whether it's fully hand-drawn. Marketplace in general does not care, and we are at a point, and even more so in the future, we'll be at a point where the customer will not be able to tell the difference. So just to give you an example of this, I'll show you an example from one of my actual upcoming books, a page from that, which has been heavily influenced by AI. I'll show you that in just a second. So people saying to take more time to create a book that people will love. Again, if you're spending more time on something that the machine can assist you with, then you are going to get left behind. I can promise you that. And it's time to start thinking about this right now. Pick up a pencil is what they say. Again, learning to do things like illustrating now is going to be a waste of time, unfortunately. AI can't replace the human touch is what they say, but unfortunately that is already happening, and you need to prepare to be left behind with such perspectives. Now, if you're willing to adapt, I can promise you we are in a crazy time for entrepreneurs, and in this case self-publishers. So as we go through this video, I am going to be using coloring books as the example, because as you might know, that's where my income comes from. So just to give you an example from one of my upcoming coloring books, this page here, for example, was created in, I think it was 13 minutes, and it is heavily influenced by AI. So of course there'll be some people that say they can tell this is AI. You can't tell this is AI because the way that we've had this created, it doesn't rely heavily upon just the direct output from ChatGPT, for example. And of course this is a high quality illustration. Some people aren't going to like this, but the reality is that it is very nice. The composition, line thickness, it's really nice, and it suits a premium book perfectly. But the point is that it can be created very, very fast. So that leads me on to my next point, which is that I think a new approach is needed to stay ahead of the competition. Okay, so one massive part of that is that embracing AI, for example, you need to be around people that are also embracing AI, that are learning how to create systems, that are learning how to output the absolute best images possible, and also get feedback on those outputs and what you're working on, the creative side of what you're working on. For example, last week, as part of one of the live Raydog calls, we created a premium book in under 7 days. So I did a kind of case study for one of my upcoming books, one of my upcoming coloring books, and how we went through the process of creating this book in less than 7 days for a production cost of around $150, which included the cover. We were coming up with the ideas in ChatGPT. It's a really interesting time to be a publisher because we can do this. But if you want to be a part of a community that is embracing these changes and is serious about going forward and building an actual publishing business and not getting left behind, feel free to check out chrisraydog.com, where we have all of these live recordings. On top of that, we also include every single piece of course content you could need to get started. So niche research, keyword research, launching your book, Amazon ads, some case studies, metrics that you need to look at when it comes to your Amazon ads. And of course, the live calls are all recorded. So I don't believe that courses should be expensive, which is why we've included all of this as part of the membership, because whilst I think some people do learn quite well from courses, there is a more important aspect of that, and that is being part of a successful group of publishers, which is why as part of the membership we have an incredible, very, very helpful Discord community where you can come in, have publishing chat, talk about the changes. You can come in primarily to get feedback on what you're doing, your book covers, your Amazon ads. You can get feedback from me, you can get feedback from other successful publishers, you can get feedback from illustrators. There's a lot of different people in here, and I believe it's one of the most valuable places that you can be, especially when it comes to embracing the advancements of AI. So if you want to check all this out and be a part of it, it's chrisraydog.com. Let's talk about what I think the new approach is to stay ahead. So I think these changes are now so significant that a new approach is needed for any publisher that wants to not only survive but thrive going forward. It's kind of we're at a point where people can either make this work extremely well for them if they embrace these changes, or they will get left behind. I don't think there's really going to be an in between here. So I do think it's kind of gone full circle, where back in the days it was a case of quantity over quality, where people were just churning out books. And I think the expression goes, throw enough shit against the wall and some of it will stick. That was the approach back then. And now the general perspective is that you need to take more time to create amazing books that people actually want. So I do believe that we are now back in a time where quantity is going to be equally as important, because reaching high levels of quality are achievable and accessible by almost anyone that is willing to adapt, which has some significant implications on the marketplace that we will talk about, and how you can future-proof yourself versus that. So now the focus, in my opinion, comes on testing new ideas rapidly for low production cost, because as we all know, there is a failure percentage of your books. And if you want to kind of bypass what would ultimately be a lot of emotional pain and financial pain to get the winners, as we call them, this is now so easy to test new ideas at a low cost that it makes doing this so much easier, okay? And in my opinion, this is where value is going to be found in the marketplace, by new ideas, that high quality new ideas that the marketplace hasn't seen before. So not from adding more pages to your book, not from spending longer on a singular project. That's not what is going to move the needle the best for you. So yeah, some pretty serious stuff. And unfortunately, honestly, I think people will get left behind unless they start thinking about this new approach. So whilst it sounds like I'm trying to encourage people to spam the marketplace, that's not the case at all. But we'll talk about what the future implications are, because what are companies going to do, what are publishers going to do once they finally realize how powerful AI is and how powerful it's becoming. We'll talk about that and those implications shortly. So that's why short term to medium term, it is very important that we build a system to cater toward these changes. So if you are someone that takes more than a couple of weeks to create a book, you are likely way too indecisive and don't have a system in place to help you create content quickly, because the ease of content creation is easier than it's ever been before. And most people now need to have a system in place that lets them come up with these ideas and create content rapidly. So if you're not using ChatGPT, for example, as a part of this, then you absolutely need to be. So one of our Raydog team members actually did a survey to establish how fast these type of books are expected to be created by a design team, professional design team. So for example, something like a bold and easy coloring book should be taking 1 to 2 days to create. A more involved Coco Wild style type of book should take a week. Picture books and word searches and things like that should be looking around 1 day to have these created. So in order to, you can't just come in and do this. It's not going to happen that way. Of course, there is still parts of this that you need to learn yourself. We believe that it should take people around a month to learn how to create these type of books this quickly. And again, you can join the Raydog membership to be the absolute first in line for learning these new methods, as it were. Of course, there are plenty of resources online as well. It's important. Okay, so I honestly, I don't want to upset people on this topic, because I know it is a sensitive topic. But if you know me, you know that I don't want to waste people's time. Genuinely, hand on heart, would not give information out that I think is going to waste people's time. And I think things like hiring an illustrator to create a full book over the course of a month or 2 months is going to be a waste of time. Spending months on coming up with a new idea or following these niche videos, I think they're so irrelevant now. Like the niche side of things are becoming so irrelevant that they're just going to continue to lead people down what is ultimately a saturated path, and that stifles people's creativity, which is going to be the most important thing going forward. And settling for these outdated approaches and just following the crowd, again, is going to cost you. So we really need to spend our time working on areas of the business that will move the needle the most. And ultimately, I know it's a very polarizing topic here, but ultimately, is this going to be a good thing or a bad thing for self-publishers? So it's going to depend. I think there are going to be sections of people that will die on the hill of creating like beautiful hand-drawn projects and spending months and months and months creating something. But from a business perspective, it's a very good change, because if you're willing to embrace this and not get caught up in the moral debates around AI, it's a very good thing, because we can of course create content much quicker and test these ideas much quicker as well. So with that in mind, if people are willing to adapt and embrace these changes, why is it now an incredible time to be a self-publisher or an entrepreneur? So the resources that we have now, they're accessible to almost everyone, which is pretty insane what we can create with some of these tools. High quality books can be created in a matter of days. Now, the most important thing, the speed in which we can test unique ideas and be first, is amazing. So for example, if you've ever seen the Cozy Crime book, you will know that it turned out to be that person's best decision that they ever made to come up with this unique idea, because it made them a ton of money. Then they produced more books of this idea. I think they did like 3 books in this series here, but they introduced this new idea into the marketplace. The marketplace really accepted it for whatever reason, not my cup of tea, but it made a ton of sales. And now we have the ability to create these new ideas. Now what people are doing, they're coming in, they're creating the exact same shit that this person has already created. And people have been doing this for years and years and years. They'll come in, create what's already been created, make a few sales, and eventually their books will die off. So we now have the ability to actually be the first and test these unique ideas. But it is extremely important that we think about the implications of this on the marketplace. Now, with this being so accessible to everyone, not just small people, but bigger companies as well are going to be able to utilize these tools. What are things going to look like in a few years' time? And how can we future-proof ourselves against this? So future-proofing yourself versus AI is very, 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 very important. Long-term perspectives are vital, and looking at Amazon KDP as an entire business is a huge mistake. We are pushed this perspective on YouTube, especially, that KDP is the best business model. It is not the best business model. Like if you were to look at the biggest businesses on the planet, we can only learn from the best. Basically, we can only learn from the best, and the publishing industry is very shallow, where Amazon is so dominant that people don't even think about a life out of Amazon. So that's why we see videos about how Amazon is the best business model all the time, when it's not. Okay, and if you look at bigger businesses are doing things like collecting customer emails. Okay, so life away from Amazon is the only way for serious publishers to build a business. And of course, there will be anomalies. There will be a tiny amount of people who have made this successful, sold their accounts and done great things from just being on Amazon. But we're talking about your average person, what gives them the best chance possible of making an income through publishing. And that is by building an email list that you can capture an audience away from Amazon, because there are so many benefits to this. And if you think about what Amazon's going to look like in, say, 2030, with all these advancements, all these changes, how are things going to look on that marketplace when bigger companies, bigger publishers can make 2 or 3 high quality books in a week? How is that going to look for the marketplace? Okay, so long term to short term, what we're doing is absolutely fine. It's still an amazing time to be publishing on Amazon, but you need to think right now, how do I actually want to survive and grow going forward? And a big part of that is embracing AI and building an email list. When you have an email list, you can reduce Amazon from the equation, which should be every single publisher's goal if they aren't super serious about this. Okay, so there's tons and tons of benefits to this. And actually the last Raydog live session that we did all on this here, and how we can get set up collecting people's emails within a matter of 1 hour. So inside this call, I showed people how to set this up for a very, very, very low cost in a very short amount of time. All the benefits to collecting emails are included in this call as well. So if you want to check that out, or any of the live calls, that's Raydog.com. If you want to be a part of the Discord and get feedback on everything that you're doing, your workflow, whatever it is, your Amazon ads, your ideas, your sketches, the illustrators that you hired, anything at all, you can get feedback from me and other serious publishers as well. That's going to be at Raydog.com if you want to check that out. But that's it for this video. Let me know what you think about the advancements of AI, the implications of AI going forward. How do you feel about building away from Amazon? Is that something that you are interested in doing? And remember to check out the Raydog membership at Raydog.com. Be a part of a place that actually wants you to succeed by embracing these changes. Anyway, that's it for this video. I'll see you in another one very soon.